Today on the Truth Hour, those missing texts, those 50,000 missing texts that the FBI says they've had a technical glitch and lost. What's up with that? And are they actually missing? Mueller to actually interview Trump. He's already interviewed Sessions. There's talk that he'll interview Trump. The president's popularity around the world seems to be dropping. We'll discuss that. Also, if you live in California and you happen to stand up for current federal immigration law, you could be prosecuted by California's Attorney General. Also, the Schumer shutdown turns into the Schumer cave and the Dems cave. That and much more this morning on the Truth Hour.
Something really wrong is going on.
What kind of a show are you guys putting on?
I want the truth.
Welcome, everybody. Welcome. This is the Truth Hour radio program. My name is Shane Jameson, and you are on the Truth Hour radio program. We come to you live every Thursday morning, Eastern Standard Time, here in Pittsburgh, PA. And this is my debut on Facebook live on Facebook. So we have, for months, about 4+ months, been over on YouTube under Truth Hour Radio. Today is our inaugural rollout on Go Live on Facebook. So I would appreciate you guys, if you happen to see this, land on my page, please like this, please share it, so that I can grow my audience here. I've been meaning to get over here on Go Live on Facebook for a while and just haven't done it. It just kind of makes sense. I've been advertising on my Facebook account for months about my Truth Hour radio program on YouTube, and it just kind of makes sense to also go live on Facebook. So we appreciate you guys. If you've never been on the Truth Hour before and you find yourself on here, just a quick rundown of what this show is. The Truth Hour radio program was conceived about 5 or 6 months ago. It's thought this up. I'm really passionate about my political beliefs, also conservative values, and also, above all, my Christian faith, and trying to spread God's Word and show others what Christ has done in my life, and show relevance as far as Scripture goes throughout politics and everyday life. So this show is probably 95% political insight and views, but it's also, I try to have a segment every week about faith and about my faith. So I am a man down today, guys, and so not a great day to be having a man down. I'm usually the front and center of the Truth Hour, but I do have an IT guy, a guy behind the scenes, my best friend, does that, Dave Deagle. He is indisposed and had a prior arrangement, so he will not be able to be here this morning. So if you will work with me today, I would appreciate your flexibility, as I am literally incapable of clicking on and including any videos or clips that I usually would incorporate into my show that shows relevance into the facts. So I appreciate you working with me there, guys. And I see some comments coming across my Facebook live stream here, and I appreciate you. And once again, some of my weekly faithfuls, Aaron and Lauren, appreciate you guys. Y'all are always here. You always provide good insight, good feedback, and we do appreciate you. Got to have my base, guys, so, the goal here is to grow the base. But I don't care if there's one person on here. I love discussing facts and truth, and, would love to have 1,000 people on here, but if I have one, it's still worth it. So with that, guys, a jam-packed session today. I want to give a shout-out to everybody that might be on here also on YouTube. If you happen to be on and watching, please shoot me a quick chat on the chat bar. If I do not respond back, I'm probably not going to type it because, you ever rub your head and pat your belly at the same time? It's kind of hard to do. I don't think I could even do that if I tried. So with that being said, I'll just try to get back to your comments as I can see them and as I feasibly can. So a lot going on here. Like I said, I'm running solo today, so I appreciate your help. 50,000 text messages between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page, of which are at the front and center of this ongoing saga that is the joke of a Russian collusion / Trump campaign investigation. Funny, because 2 or 3 days ago this drops, right? There's been some slow walkout a slow walkout about all of these, these text messages have been coming out. These conversations have come to light. There's been insurance policies quoted and discussed in Andrew McCabe's office. There is, Peter Strzok and Lisa Page were having a romantic, endeavor. They were having an affair. Both of them, I believe, were married. There's a lot of stuff going on, but front and center has nothing to do with that. It has to do with what appears to be the coordinated effort by Peter Strzok being a top FBI investigator in this that would eventually be brought on to Mueller's team to prosecute and to try to probe in even further into Trump, which, by the way, I'll always say this whole investigation is predicated on lies and falsities and a fake dossier that has no merit, wasn't vetted, and it's so there's no warrant for this investigation. I mean, it's absolutely insane, guys. You have an investigation that was started without being predicated on a crime or even the thought of a crime. The Democrats pulled stuff out of thin air. They cherry-picked false and salacious stuff bought and paid for by the DNC and Hillary Clinton, funneled through Fusion GPS through various entities such as Christopher Steele, an MI6 spy, British spy, that had connections to Russian sources, that literally, opposition research really is an injustice for this term, because really what it is it's opposition research. So, even as opposition research, this has no validity. I mean, it actually gives opposition research a bad name, right? This is how bad this dossier was. So this dossier is brought in. It's coordinated and crafted and put together. There are specific individuals within the FBI that then have a say-so in how that is being brought in. It's brought into the intelligence agencies, and it's given validity. And then, so it's gaining traction. So it's been peddled all over the world to different news organizations. It's trying to gain traction. That's exactly what the DNC, that's exactly what Hillary and anybody else that was trying to make sure that Trump didn't win wanted to do. They wanted it to gain traction, and once it gained enough traction, then they could actually go a step further, right? They could, once it's gained enough relevance, well, their next step was, well, guess what? How about we doctor this thing up? We dress this thing up. And, it's like putting lipstick and a dress on a pig. It's still a pig. Well, this dossier was dirty as a pig. They took this false, salacious hearsay. They dressed it up and got it in front of the FISA courts. Right? Got it in front of the FISA courts and got a warrant from that. They went down initially to try to get a warrant to spy on Michael Flynn, right? And it didn't work. The FISA court shut them down because they didn't have anything, okay? So then they come back with this dossier. It's been prettied up. It's been doctored up. And they go, okay, we're going to take what we think is this about this, and we're going to then add in as an addition the dossier. Okay, so then they go in the front of the FISA courts, and guess what? The dossier was the get-over-the-hump factor that got them the FISA warrants to spy on Mike Flynn. And what they've done then is once they've got their foot in the door, their foot in the crack of all of this, it's simple. Then they've got like an undisclosed amount of information, and then anybody that ties into anything, and then once the special counsel was basically appointed, the parameters were set. Russian collusion as it pertains to undermine the United States elections that had anything to do with possibilities of the Trump campaign or President Trump. Okay? They had such, that's a broad statement in itself, but Mueller is so far outside those parameters now, it's crazy. Everything that's happened since then has been a sham. Look at what they found as it pertains to Russian collusion. Nothing. They got George Papadopoulos, Paul Manafort, and Mike Flynn. Manafort on money laundering and possibly some other charges upcoming. Papadopoulos and Mike Flynn basically perjured themselves. They were interviewed under oath. FBI already had all the information that they were going to ask them about, so they knew in advance what they believed the truth to be. In walks Mike Flynn. The story there is he didn't even know he was under oath. He didn't even know he was under oath. Interviews with the FBI, ends up perjuring himself, providing false and misleading statements to the FBI. Hillary Clinton wasn't under oath. Hillary Clinton's interview, if it even happened, wasn't recorded. There was no video audio recording of that. She was never placed under oath. In fact, half of her team was given immunity. It's an absolute joke. So, once again, if you're joining me here live on Facebook, I appreciate you. You're on the Truth Hour radio program. Comes to you live every Thursday morning Eastern Standard Time here in Pittsburgh, PA. My name is Shane Jameson. I'm glad to be here with you, and I appreciate it if you would share this page, like it, and leave any comments that you might have so I can address them at some point in the future. But back to today's topics. So guys, this is unraveling by the second. So you also have now confirmation to various members of Congress that there is an undercover informant that is confirming that there has been, in recent months and within the last year to year and a half, off-site secret society type meetings. That was the words that were used by this specific congressman. Okay? Secret society off-site meetings, and then you add into that all the text messages we already know about between Peter Strzok and Lisa Page and Andrew McCabe, meeting in Andrew McCabe's office about discussing, what and if Trump actually won, insurance policies. Guys, this is some bad stuff. This is some bad stuff. And let's discuss the insurance policies. I've been thinking about this a lot in the last number of weeks. And I think if we only see this on the surface for the one element that I think they're discussing as the insurance policy, I think we actually do a disservice and we're missing the bigger picture. Yes, was this effort to undermine this president, to delegitimize a president of the United States, is that the insurance policy that's being discussed, is that what that's about? Circumventing and undermining and preventing and hopefully even probably impeaching him? Yes, that is an insurance policy. This dossier and this coordinated effort to leak stuff and to make him look guilty of collusion is one of the insurance policies, but that's not the main policy. Guys, the main policy in this whole orchestrated event, the first insurance policy was Hillary Clinton winning the presidency. And you might say, well, Shane, that's a given. But have you really thought about why that's that way? The reason it's that way, think about this. They wanted to make certain the first insurance policy was to exonerate Hillary so that, therefore, she wouldn't have anything hindering her from being elected as President of the United States. Right? So they were writing exoneration letters months before they'd ever done an interview, months before an investigation had even been underway or concluded. Comey's, at the direction of Peter Strzok, he's actually on record and through documentation as part of this coordinated effort to basically dilute the talking points in the exoneration letter. Remember, it went from grossly negligent to extremely careless, or one version of that. So negligent and careless is the two key words. One bearing a criminal possibility, and the other just being, poor judgment. And basically then undermining, in the statute, I believe you have to show intent. But then there's really not, you don't have to show intent. If you're ignorant and you mess up and you don't handle your top secret clearance in the right way, and you share or leak or mishandle classified information as a government employee, you're just as, and you do it ignorantly, you're just as liable and responsible as the person that went out there and did it on purpose. So ignorance is not an excuse in this instance. So a lot of people actually have been saying that. And now there's talk, right? Now there's talk that, so Sessions was interviewed for hours here, come to find out earlier in the week or the end of last week. They interviewed Jeff Sessions. I think it's pretty obvious. Mueller's running out of steam. Mueller's running out of steam. He's jumping on here. I mean, they've only got 3 indictments so far, and all of the charges have nothing to do with it being inside the parameters of the original commission of this special counsel, which was Russian collusion as it pertains to undermining the American election, and if it had anything to do with Trump and Russia. Okay, there's no evidence of that. So you've got 3 indictments so far that fall well outside those parameters, yet it continues every day. So the thought is that Mueller is wanting to interview Trump. And Trump, as brash as he is declared, I don't have anything to hide. I'll meet with you anytime, any day. Now, watching a lot of interviews on Fox, Judge Napolitano being one, Greg Jarrett that's always on Hannity being 2, and some other individuals, most of them believe that he doesn't have a choice, that he's going to at some point have to have some version of an interview, if it's written or if it's just with Mueller, if it's grand jury, whatever the case may be, and that there will be a time and day that he will, unless something happens before then and all this actually gets unraveled, which it should, and in my opinion, President Trump shouldn't have to answer for anything because he didn't commit any crimes. But these legal minds are saying that it's absolutely all but legal suicide to sit down with Mueller, and here's why. The very thing that they got Papadopoulos, Manafort, and Flynn on is the very thing that they might be trying to do and probably are trying to do with Trump if, in fact, they sit down with him. And probably were trying to do with Sessions when they sat down with him. And what is that? Well, it's simple. The FBI goes out and gathers a bunch of information. They go back and they already know all the records, like with Flynn. They already knew he'd met with Kislyak. They already knew he'd been talking on the phone with Kislyak. And see, they'd already gotten the FISA warrants to spy on him, but they didn't even need a warrant to really spy when he was talking to Kislyak, because Kislyak falls under, they don't have to have, I don't think, a warrant necessarily. I might be wrong on this, but I don't think they have to have a warrant necessarily to basically, spy on or drip, drip, drip in on foreign intelligence. So Kislyak, being an ambassador to Russia, he was already like, game's on. They don't have to do anything special to get that. So just so happens, as the transition is happening from Obama into Trump and the transition team, and Trump had won the election, and before he had swore in, apparently, Mike Flynn goes in there and he's already trying to massage some relationships with Kislyak. He's trying to make certain that when Trump swears in and he takes the oath of office, he can hit the ground running. Okay, so he's not doing anything illegal. Meeting with Kislyak or talking with Kislyak over the phone during the transition about upcoming situations is not illegal. He was well within his rights to do that, and every administration that is a transition from one to another does that. There's nothing wrong with that. Well, here's what happens, though. And for whatever reason, only Mike Flynn knows this, he ended up not conveying the facts as accurate as what the FBI had already known, because they had all the facts and details sitting there. So they walk Flynn in. Unbeknownst to him, they've already got all these transcripts. They know he's been on the phone with Manafort. He simply lies about it. I'm not saying it's right. Lying's wrong. Being a man of faith, I'm absolutely against it. You should tell the truth. But let's get this clear then. So they brought Flynn in to interview him under the parameters of an investigation into a crime that never happened, only to then entrap him in a perjury entrapment about something that has nothing to do with Russian collusion. Now I want you to let that sink in. Let that sink in for a little bit. And the same thing happened to Papadopoulos. They interview him. He misled them. He said something that was different. Now, here's the thing that scares you. You think if Trump goes in there and sits down, you think if President Trump goes in there and sits down in front of Manafort, or excuse me, in front of Mueller, you think that if he sits down in front of Mueller and is extravagant and embellishing, just dramatic sometimes that President Trump can be, which plays to his credit, but also can play to his detriment if he's not careful. You think if he sits down and does that's not going to be, that Mueller and them aren't going to try to get him to spin something or say something in a way that they can then turn around and entrap him in perjury? You darn right they will, and they would do it in a heartbeat. They would absolutely do it in a heartbeat. So, a lot of people, 90% of people are saying, steer clear of that. Make them come to you. Make them subpoena you. But I mean, at the same time, it's bad either way. If they make him, if he forces them to subpoena him into testifying or being investigated or interviewed, then that looks bad. It's like, well, what has he got to hide? If he comes out and says, I ain't got nothing to hide, and then he sits down willingly, he can be, put into a perjury trap. So I don't really know what to say here. All I know is all of this, at the end of the day, guys, everything to do with this is predicated on a joke. And therefore, it's the fruit of the poisonous tree. Everything that happened after the fact that dossier got presented to a FISA court that ended up getting the warrant, that ended up getting this investigation underway, that had a Mueller appointed, and then had all these indictments, I think it's all false. I think it's all irrelevant. And none of this would pass muster in a court of law. If you went down to a court of law and there was evidence shown against you that was obtained illegally and was errant and it was hearsay, hearsay is not admitted in the court of law. Well, it's admitted, but it's called hearsay, and it's not admissible as fact. And no punishments and indictments can further be conveyed out of hearsay or falsehoods. So why is the Mueller investigation any different? Why is the Mueller investigation any different? Yeah, and Lauren reads on here on Facebook. Appreciate you chiming in there, Lauren. He says, he shouldn't have to talk to them. I absolutely agree. He shouldn't have to talk to them. He shouldn't have to say a word to a witch hunt of an investigation that's been clearly biased from the start. There's clearly Trump-hating FBI officials that are at the center of all of this. There is no reason at all for him to have to sit down with them. So let's move on. How about that government shutdown? Of course, I don't call it the government shutdown. It's the Schumer shutdown. And what did the Dems say? Well, the Republicans own the House and the Senate. They own the White House. It's all on them. The shutdown's all on the Republicans. What a joke. And here's what happened. Schumer and them come out, and they basically exactly what Trump had laid out there as a plan for the government spending bill was with all this stuff attached, was the very thing that after 3+ days, almost 3 full days of a government shutdown, by the way, where they basically upheld and put in front of and ahead of our men and women in the service, they put 800,000 plus illegals, they put their consideration over U.S. citizens. It's an absolute joke. Dan Bongino, big fan of Dan. He's always on as an analyst. He's hosted a few shows. He's always on Fox. Former Secret Service agent. He's got some great relevance. He was quoted as saying, everything you ever need to know about the Democrats, they call Americans deplorable, and they call illegals dreamers. That's all you need to know. Where do Democrats stand on all this? That's all you need to know. Right? Yeah. So yeah, they shut the government down. It's a political stunt, and it backfired on them. So they could only withstand that for almost 3 days, and then they end up accepting the very offer that Trump laid out before it got shut down. Now, how idiotic and hypocritical and ridiculous do you think the Dems look after that? They come out, they reject all of this politically. It's simple because they don't want to go along with it, and their base wants them to have something done for the Dreamers. And the reason they're doing this and always tying DACA into this is because they don't ever want to have a chance that the GOP and that the Republicans can ever have a clear-cut way to ever making DACA amnesty their own, which I've been on this program. I'm about the rule of law. I'm about if you're here illegally, then you shouldn't be here. You shouldn't be here. You should be deported if you're found. I am of a different stance on the Dreamers because of the fact that there is something to be said that if you were brought here against your will and you're of a certain age that you didn't, like if you're an infant or a young child, early teens, and it's not your fault that you got drugged across the border or was forced into a position that you had to be here because your parents or guardians or somebody forced you across. Okay. All right, I'll buy that. And because of that, I'm willing to be open about possibilities to try to do something with the Dreamers. Does that mean that I'm full amnesty? No, absolutely not. The 8, 10, 12, 15 million, whatever it is, that are here actually illegal, that came across the borders illegally or overstayed visas, those are the individuals that need to be rounded up and deported. Sorry. Now, that's not practical either, because we're not going to be able to financially do that. But let's talk about the DACA. Let's talk about the Dreamers. It's simple. The only reason the Democrats go to bat for the Dreamers on any given day is because they think that that'll be a future vote. If for some reason there was a DACA debate and an amnesty proposal that stripped all of the Dreamers of their right to vote, the Democrats would bail instantly. The Democrats would bail. They wouldn't care about any of it. Instantly, the wall would be valid. Instantly, chain migration off the table. Lottery visa program would be valid. They wouldn't care. Guys, the only reason they give a flying crud in any sliver of the meaning of the word is because, about DACA and about immigration in general, is because the way they look at it, they've always been a champion for the victims in this country. The Democratic Party and the far left in this country are the champions of victimhood. You can write that down, you can put that in the bank. That is exactly what they're doing. The Democrats, because they fail to run on truth, they fail to run on principle, have chosen over the last number of generations and numerous administrations, have chosen to basically sell out on principle, sell out on truth, and to buy all in, push all their chips in the middle on victimhood. A significant, if not a majority, of the voter base of the Democratic Party are those that want the government to take care of them, that want the government to pay for everything that they got, and that want to have the government dictate to them. And they want to have a program in place for whatever need you have. If you can't eat, they want to have that need. If you can't work, or if you say you can't eat or you can't work, it's not even proven. You want to have you want to have an outlet to that, and you don't want to be proven to be self-sufficient, and motivated to take care of your own responsibilities and accountable. No, the government wants to. The Democrats want the government to always have a relief valve out the back door for people that want to sit on their lazy butts, draw unemployment, and run up the food stamps. Under Obama, food stamps were at all-time high. Under Obama, black Americans, the unemployment rate was at near all-time highs. Funny, that's funny, because under Trump, the black unemployment rate in this country is at like 17-year lows. In less than a year. Add that up. Trump's taken the foot of regulation off the throat of this capitalist juggernaut of an engine of an economy, and just look what it's done in less than a year. Right at a year, excuse me. His tax reform bill has been rocket fuel to this economy. Guys, rocket fuel. I think we had Apple or Google, I think it was Apple, that said they're going to repatriate like $250 billion back into the United States, bring that money back from offshore, bring it back into this economy for a one-time tax rate of like, I don't know what it was, 15% or something, a one-time repatriation. It was a one-chance offer to get it back. Apple's like, I'll buy that for $1. They're going to repatriate 250 plus billion with a B dollars over the next 5 years. Guess what that ends up being for the government coffers? How about $38 billion? Oh, but all the people on the left and all the Dems and all the left have been chanting and beating the drum. These tax reforms and all this conservative tax plan and all of these cuts are just for corporate America, and it's only going to put more money in them. But their very piggy bank, the one that they fought hard to preserve, the establishment piggy bank that is the government coffers, is going to get a $38 billion infusion because Apple looked at this amazing tax structure that Trump just got done passing and said, we will bring every dime we got back in here and we'll repatriate it, and we will start spending. They're going to build a new campus. They're going to add 20,000 new jobs. Add to that all these other companies like Google, $2,500 in stock incentive to their employees as a bonus because of the tax reform. Walmart, $1,000 bonuses to their employees. Thermo Fisher Scientific, my wife works for them. They all got a $500 bonus. You could go on and on and on. When you get out of the way and you get off of the regulation train and you jump on the deregulation train, a magical thing happens because government has no right running private business. They have no right being in the business of money. They have no right being in the business of telling you how to spend your money. And they have no right keeping your money, except for a small portion. Should there be taxes? Yes. Less taxes are better. And good morning, Dakota, my son-in-law, way out there in El Paso, Texas. Appreciate you being on. And to let you know there, Dakota, I'm also live on Facebook, bud. So if you happen to find that, jump on there, like it, share it, do whatever you got to do there. And I see Candy's on here as well. Welcome to you this morning. I appreciate you. And everybody that's on, I appreciate you guys. And if you're just jumping on here and you're not familiar with the Truth Hour, I'm kind of doing incremental plugs because I've been on YouTube for about 4 or 5 months. Everybody that gets on there knows me over there and is familiar. But if you're on here first time on Facebook Live with me, this is the first time I've took the show live on Facebook, which I've been wanting to do, and now here we are. So Truth Hour is about politics. It's about truth. It's about principle, ethics, morals, and it's about my Christian faith. And I think they all intertwine, right? Christ has something to say and has something to do with everything in our lives, and we should acknowledge that. So, yeah, welcome if you're here, and give me a shout out if you're there, and I will try to get back to your comments at some point. We appreciate you guys. So anyways, let's get back to the meat and potatoes of this jam-packed session. Yeah, so, you know, the Dems can say whatever, and it's really simple. They have to sit in a corner and just whine and suck their thumb. It's all they can do. They don't have a message. They don't have any principles to run on. They've jettisoned all their principles. They've disgraced all their principles. They've ran a 180-degree opposite direction of their principles and of truth. And, you know, they didn't like the tax plan. Not a single I want you to let this sink in. Not a single Democrat, not a single sitting Democrat, a single one, not a single one, voted for Trump's tax reform bill. Do you fully understand what that means? You want to talk about divided. These individuals, these Democrats, are so sold out and have embraced the hatred that is the base, the overall base of the far left. They have sold out to such a point that they don't even believe that you deserve a single dime more in your paycheck. Not a single dime. That's all you need to know about the Democrats, in addition to what Dan Bongino said, right? They call Americans in general deplorables, and they call 800,000 plus all the others dreamers, and then they don't want to give you your money back. They think the government has more responsibility with your money than you do. I'm sorry. I'm fully capable of running my own ship, running my own bills and paying my own bills and being self-sufficient and taking care of me and my own and giving and tithing and being there to volunteer and to say what happens about the comings and goings of my family. I do not need the government telling me how to live my life. Period. End of sentence. You know, stay out of my life. Let me live my life under my Judeo-Christian values and under my Christian faith, and let me raise my family the way I deem that needed and the way I deem necessary. And you ain't got no business in my business. That's the way that is. So anyways, the Dems cave on that. The Dems cave. Government comes back on. Chalk one up for Trump and the GOP, and another for the Democrats. And now Schumer is in a bind, getting a lot of pushback from his base. And why is that? Because they went into this to fight. They went into this to fight. They shut down the government to fight for DACA. They went into the government to fight against the wall. And now all of a sudden, they come outside, they come out the other end of that government shutdown, the government's back on in full force, and they didn't get squat for what their efforts were. What they got was another black eye and another bunch of mud on their face politically, because they are responsible 150,000% for the government shutdown, and they're trying to skirt it. How about the Women's March here at the anniversary of Trump's inauguration? Anybody watch any of that stuff? That comedy? Right? Anybody watch that? I tuned on a couple of shows. Guys, I was there the day after Trump won the election. I was Ubering. This is before I started back to work in the oil and gas industry. I'd been out of work in between work for 14 months. I was Ubering for a living to supplement my income. I was downtown Pittsburgh, guys, the day after the election. You don't know what I saw? I saw a bunch of idiots in pea hats holding a bunch of vulgar signs, walking into places of business. I stopped into a Dunkin' Donuts in downtown Pittsburgh the day after the election. Parked my car, walked into a Dunkin' Donuts to get something to eat and a cup of coffee, and one of those demonstrators wearing a pink hat had a sign that had the most vulgar language you'd ever hear, sitting in a public restaurant, a Dunkin' Donuts, with kids and families standing in line, and didn't have even the audacity to leave that outside. Brought it in with her and had it in full display for everybody to read. It was absolutely despicable. Well, the same thing, fast forward a year, the same things happened. I don't know what the women that get out and march against this are thinking, but this administration of Trump has went to bat like no other in the history of this country for women's rights, for women's equality. In this sense of, now, everybody's going, oh, y'all, that ain't the right statement. Women's rights, well, what is he doing going against Planned Parenthood? Because I'm sorry, it's not a woman's right to murder. I'm sorry, it's not a woman's right to take a life. I'm sorry, when you cross the line and you want to have an abortion, I'm sorry, that's not your right to do so. And if that offends you, I'm not apologizing for that. You can take that up with our Lord and Savior. Period, end of sentence. So yeah, he fights for women's equality. He's putting millions of people back to work. He's putting more money back in your paycheck. And you know what? And he is trying to stop abortion. He's trying to stop Roe v. Wade. And let me tell you something. I'm going to go out on, I'm getting back up in my soapbox here. We keep trucking along here. All we need is another one or two conservative justices on the Supreme Court. Sway the balance of that. I promise you Roe v. Wade will be visited. Trump will be in office for another 7 years, and I predict Roe v. Wade will be visited. It will be epic. We're already defunding Planned Parenthood. We're already defunding anything that has to do with that. I mean, Planned Parenthood is absolutely disgusting. They've been caught up in the selling of baby parts and fetal tissue. It is the worst atrocity on this planet. And as a country, I hate to say this, folks, but we are collectively a bunch of hypocrites. Now, why is that, Shane? Why you say that? It's simple. Because, yes, we care about all life. And you hear about these shootings, and you hear about our soldiers, you hear about our people, anybody, American citizens dying in any form around the country, here on our streets of America. You hear about it, 1 or 2 here, 15 here, 10 here, a car wreck there, somebody was done wrong here and shot there and done that. And yeah, they're all atrocities. It's all crime, right? Nobody speaks up for the unborn. Nobody speaks up for the unborn. While we're doing this program, hundreds of innocents are being slaughtered. Late-term abortions, mind you, many of them. That is an absolute atrocity. It sickens me that I'm not more active in this area. It sickens me that I'm not more active in this area. And guys, if you're hearing this morning, one of the biggest battles in this country ongoing that gets the most ignorance and the least amount of coverage is the abortion tragedy that goes on day in, day out, without pause. Dozens and dozens and hundreds and hundreds and thousands and thousands and tens of thousands and hundreds of thousands and even millions of innocent lives have been snuffed out because of abortion. It needs to stop, guys. It needs to stop. Yeah, and this just in over the last 2 or 3 days. You want to move to California? If you're a conservative, I don't know why the heck why would you ever want to go to California? It's beautiful. Been there when I was younger, but they've all but seceded from the country. I mean, they've become a first sanctuary state, and now this just in, on top of that, sanctuary state being, they're not going to cooperate with federal ICE agents. They're not going to cooperate with any of the current standing immigration law as it pertains to being federal law. They're not going to cooperate with any deportations, and they're not going to cooperate with any of that. Well, let's just add to that, as if California isn't already crazy enough. If you're a resident of California and you just happen to believe differently than that, and you think that current federal immigration law is the law of the land, and that you should uphold that, and that if you have a chance to have an opportunity to be in a position to go against that or to stand up for that, then you think that you should, well, you might want to think again. Right? Well, why you say that, Shane? Because California's Attorney General is on record stating that if you are complicit in, enable, or help the federal government in any way comply with current federal immigration law, you will be prosecuted. Let me say that again. The Attorney General of California is on the record stating that because California has now declared itself, pulled away from federal law, declared itself a sanctuary state, that it now states it will prosecute its own residents for helping the federal government uphold current federal law as it pertains to immigration. I don't, every week I'm like, well, what's California going to do? What other crazy thing they're going to do? Yeah, that's what they're done. That's what they've done. I meant, it's horrible. It's horrible. But that's what's happening. Yeah, so they got an attorney general that will literally go to fight against you, take you to court, and prosecute you. And even if they can't legally get away with any official, conviction at the end of it, they will drag you through the courts, costing you thousands, if not tens of thousands of dollars to basically combat that or defend yourself. So they're trying to steer away and basically make certain that nobody is an obstructionist when it comes to making sure that they can be a sanctuary state. What a joke. Also, and usually this is where I kind of do my comedy section, guys, and I don't have the ability to click all this stuff up. I had some great videos and clips, but comedy section of the day belongs to none other than Jim Comey. Mr. Comey, fired by Trump, is being probably still investigated, is going to be brought back in, and we'll talk about this, going to be brought back in front of various committees to clarify his statements that he's already made that now have been proven as lies because of the Peter Strzok, Lisa Page unraveling of the text message conversations, secret society, insurance policies, the undermining of the presidency. He's going to be brought back in for that. And it's funny, real quick, I'm going to pivot to one thing, but he's going to be brought back in to reassess or clarify his statements. Well, that's funny. Did Mike Flynn get a chance to re-clarify his statements after they had proven that they had entrapped him in perjury? Did Papadopoulos get a chance to re-clarify his statements after they convicted him, indicted him for lying and misleading the FBI, of which he's pleaded out of that? Did Manafort get a chance to reassess his statements when they've tried to get him on money laundering that has nothing to do with collusion? The answer to those questions are no. No. So why is Comey getting brought back in? He was already under oath. He was under oath when he answered all these questions. I believe the question went something like this: how did it go? How'd the question go? I'm trying to remember. Did you write the exoneration letter before or after you had interviewed Hillary Clinton? It was something along those lines. And Comey said, after. And then goes on to elaborate on that and said, that if anybody or any of my colleagues believe that I'm lying about that, please have them contact me privately. That way we can have a discussion. That's funny. Why would you even feel like you would need to say that if you were telling the truth? So, anyways, yeah. So Comey, here's the comic section. The comic section of the day. James Comey, one of the most unethical FBI agents of all time, and unethical people to be in the position he was in, is going to start teaching a class at his alma mater at William and Mary on, get this, ethical leadership. James Comey will be leading a class in the upcoming days or weeks at his alma mater, William and Mary, on ethical leadership. What's the first word that comes to mind when you hear that? Hypocrisy? Yeah, that came to mind. Oh, goodness. Vicente Fox, Mexico's previous president, interviewed with Sean Hannity night before last. I watched that. It was phenomenal. Sean took it to him. And, kudos to Vicente Fox. He stood in there and took some heat. I see Shane's on here with me on Facebook Live. Welcome, sir. Appreciate you. So Vicente Fox, right? Oh, my gosh. Extreme advocate against Trump. Extreme advocate against the wall. Trump says the Mexican people are going to pay. Mexico's going to pay for the wall. Vicente Fox gives them a big finger and says, nope, American taxpayers are going to pay for the wall. Let's dive into the wall. I've always said this, guys, it's simple. It's a ship at sea. It's a ship at sea. If you're a ship at sea and you find your boat to be taking on water, and you didn't find out initially, so some time had went by and you discovered that there's already a significant amount of water in your boat. It's not quite in danger of going down, but there is a problem with it because it is leaking and you are at sea. Do you A, start shoveling the water, bucketing the water out, or do you B, address the leak where the hole is in the ship? I think there's possibility C, which is A and B. I think you address the hole in the ship, and I think you start bucketing the water out as fast as you can. So in other words, transfer those layman's terms equivalents to the border situation. Guys, we have a porous border. More drugs come across that border than anywhere else. More illegals come across that border. A lot of the Democrats want to say that the illegal problem was mainly from of all the millions of illegals that are here, including some of the DACA. They're stating that it's not from illegal crossings at in between these checkpoints out in the middle of nowhere on basically the borderless border, but that they say that these are people that came through kind of temporarily legally and overstayed their visas. That's an absolute lie. And it's not even relevant. So let's talk about the wall. It's real simple, and I don't have the figures here, guys, but I'd like to figure this out at some point. I'd like to put pen to paper, calculate this out. I'd like to know for every illegal alien that makes it across the border, that then crutches on our social system, crutches on our welfare system, crutches on our food stamps, crutches on whatever kind of government assistance programs are still out there that Trump hasn't squashed yet, qualifies for any kind of free medical, qualifies for working under the table, getting paid under the table, and then not being taxed is point one, and then two, sending a majority of their money back across the border to support their families. I don't fault them for doing that part. But guys, that's economic cancer. It's economic cancer. You come here to this country, you get to lean on our services that are provided for actual U.S. citizens. You then get to draw a wage under the table from actors that would pay you for you to only then send a majority of your money, not back out into the economy that you just worked and provided in, but to your family across the border in Mexico. Billions of dollars a year gets basically repatriated across the border to families in Mexico. How does that benefit the United States? How does that benefit you or me? It doesn't benefit you or me. It's economic cancer. It doesn't embellish our tax base. It doesn't help us with taxes. And then on top of that, they're able to crutch on the welfare that we provide in this country for emergencies for our very citizens. You can't have it both ways. So, guys, if you could add up how much each individual illegal costs this country to come across over a 5-year, 10-year basis, all of those 8, 10, 12 million that are already here, that have crutched on our welfare system, that have gotten the food stamps, that have gotten the assistance, that have gotten this, all these sub-laws, once again, these sub-laws that I don't believe should exist. The law is the border. If you cross the border illegally, then you've broken the law. Like Pelosi. Oh, yeah, I believe we should, this is her quoting, I believe, yeah, we should deport any illegals, but we need to wait until they've broken the law. They're illegal at the moment they step a foot on sovereign U.S. territory. Period. End of sentence. There is no other subcategorization of breaking the law. You're illegal the instant you come across our border the improper way. So, to all the people that want to dilute that and say it's different, that's wrong. But if you was to add up all of that, take the number of all the people that crutch on our society, that cost us because they came illegally, and add in also the money that's being basically cancered out of this country, sent somewhere else, economic cancer, tax-based cancer. And then you put up a wall, and even if it prevented a third of the illegal crossings, and it's going to be much more than that, if you put a physical wall on all of these unpatrollable areas, you slow down the process, you give Border Patrol agents time to get into position to do their jobs. The ramifications and the ongoing benefits of that play out, and it would take years to really know that, but it's an instant situation, an instant fix to a majority of that problem. And then on top of that, it's not just that. How about all the prevention of the drugs that are getting muled across the border? Has anybody considered that? How about all of the drugs that it would stop? That alone is worth every single cent that would be spent on the wall. Okay? So you add all of that in, cost of drugs, right? Cost of all of the ramifications for our society using the drugs that come across the border, plus all of the illegals, plus all the crushing of the welfare, plus all the tax cancer and all of the economic cancer from sending their money back across. You add all that up, it will dwarf the cost of the wall. It will dwarf the cost of putting a physical barrier from one point of that border to the other end. Manning that with proper technology, manning that with proper personnel. It will dwarf that, guys. The Democrats want to make it sound like that they can't afford to allocate the money, and now, like Chuck Schumer, he has pulled off any of the wall debate. He had offered up something to negotiate on the wall, and the reason he did that is because he got his butt handed to him on the government shutdown, and that was actually part of it. But now Schumer's come out and said, well, no, we're not going to discuss the wall. The wall's off the table. Okay, good luck with that, Chuck. We'll see how that works out for you. But let me tell you what's going to happen. I'll tell you what is going to happen. That wall is going to get put up. That wall is going to get put up, and it will pay for itself. Guys, it's no different than if you had some kind of form of energy at the house, and I'm not big on solar because it hasn't proven out. In some instances it is, but right, it's just not a very reliable source of energy. But let's say it's your house. You want to be off the electric grid, and you decide that, yes, we're going to pay an upfront hit, an expense to make our house energy sufficient independent. We're going to make it totally off the grid. We're going to make it solar. So you've got to pay $50,000 to be off the grid. It's going to sting at first, but as those monthly bills that used to go out to your electric bill and your gas bill and your heating bill and your cooling bill and all these other things that solar would provide and all these other things that this energy independence would provide, right? I'm just hypothetically saying this, not believing all that yet, but it's the same principle. At some point there's a break even. Might be 5 years, might be 10, but then after that it's gravy. I don't know how soon it will pay for itself. I don't have those facts. But you can rest assured it will pay for itself and then some. And even not, and I think the principle of this, guys, is not just if it'll pay for itself. It's going to be the ultimate moral thing to do for the wall is it forces these mules that try to mule these drugs across the border. It stops a lot of the illegal, the flow of drugs, the poison into our kids, into our streets, into our kids, and into our youth, and into our adults. If that's not worth all of it, what is? So, the wall, and here's the thing. He was on there with Vicente Fox, Sean Hannity was, and he's like, Mr. Fox, you got one of the most strictest defended borders ever on your southern border. Wonder why that is. Yeah, I wonder why that is. So, you got the strongest border you can have at your southern border, and you're in Mexico, and you're going to lecture the United States on why they want to enforce their border as being that's racist and that's horrible and it's not right. That's absolutely a joke. You do not have a border. If you do not have an enforceable border and you don't have a defended border, you don't have a country. And the Democrats have had that way for generations. And they want to play both sides of the fence. They want to say that they're against and you can go back in time, and everybody in the Democratic Party, Obama, Chuck Schumer, Nancy Pelosi, they're all on record in recent elections and years basically stating that they absolutely would stand up against anybody being here illegally and going to bat for these policies that would help. Yet when it comes politically expedient because their base demands it, now all of a sudden they jettison those beliefs and those principles because it doesn't get them votes. They are the biggest wafflers and flip-floppers on the planet. They do it every day. They are the kings of pivot. They are the kings of waffling. And this is what we deal with. And it's up to the conservatives in this country to stand true on principle and truth, stand true on what is right and wrong, and stand up for it. So, yeah, with that being said, that's what we're dealing with, guys. Well, we're about 5 minutes out here. Don't have a whole lot of material left, and I do appreciate you, each and every one of you, being here today on our first ever going live with Facebook. I've been on YouTube, guys, over there for about 4 months on the Truth Hour radio program, and I do appreciate you being here today on Facebook with me live. I just thought I would have a better chance to connect with my audience. So if you would like this program and share my link to your page, maybe write a comment if you would about this. And also, you can message me personally on my own Facebook account, or you can also reach me on the YouTube side of things at well, actually, it doesn't matter. It's a Gmail account. So truthhourradio@gmail.com is the email, truthhourradio@gmail.com. You can reach me there. Leave any questions or concerns there. If you've got any topic suggestions for next week, anything like that, guys, I check that weekly. Or you can just direct message me. I'd be glad to go into that. So my IT guy just showed back up. He took an hour layoff and conveniently walks in with 4 minutes left on the clock, leaving me hanging today. I love him to death. Yes, he's great. I will leave his name out, but he's awesome. Yeah, but this show's been great, guys. I appreciate you being here, and probably sign off about 3 minutes early. Oh, and there's my daughter Cheyenne. I'll say it again, way out there in El Paso, Texas, and she writes, "Sorry I missed it. I'll rewatch it. Love you, Dad." I love you too, and I appreciate you, Lauren. Appreciate you, Aaron. Appreciate you, Candy, Shane. Once again, my daughter Cheyenne, son-in-law Dakota. Anybody else and everybody that's been on here and that will look at this in the future, I appreciate you. Here to bring you political insight and Judeo-Christian values underneath my banner of faith. We appreciate you guys, and next week we will be back up and running full capacity. Videos, clips, faith segment, all of that. I'm sure you're tired of listening to me ramble, because that's all I've done for an hour. I'm pretty good at that, actually. If I got paid, I'd be rich. So I will see you guys next week, God willing. Stay safe, stay warm, and stay in the truth.
Something really wrong is going on.
What kind of a show are you guys putting on here?
I want the truth.
See ya.